Hello everyone. In this video, we will continue looking at Java arrays and we will be specifically looking at how to access Java array elements using the enhanced for loop. And we will check this for both primitive data types as well as reference data types. In a previous video, we have seen how to access array elements using the for loop, which makes use of the index of each element and then loops over those indexes. As we mentioned, array elements can be accessed using the enhanced for loop, and the loop executes once for each element of the array without us having to specify the index and the condition that while the index is less than the length of the array elements. Okay, so here is our array int marks of three integer elements 20, 25, and 23. Now, using the enhanced for loop, the way we write it is we just write the keyword for and we say for each m in the array marks. Okay, so it's like the way we read it is for what is the data type of marks? Data type of marks is int. So we'll say for int m colon marks. Okay, what does it say? This loop will automatically execute once for each element of the array. So in this case, we will just try and print out the value of m and we will see how this execution goes on. So first, coming here for int m, when we start executing the loop, int m colon marks, m is a variable of type. Okay, so first it will access the first element of the array, which is at index 0, and it will make a variable m, a local variable m, which will get the value present at index 0, which in this case is 20, and 20 will be copied over to m. So when we do come to the next statement in the loop, which is system.out.println m, the output on the screen will be 20. Moving on, because the loop will automatically go on till all the elements in the array have been processed, it will go up here and now it will access the second element of the array, which is at index 1, and copy that value to the variable m. And when we try to print, it will print 25. So moving on, it will then access 23, make m as 23 and print that value 23. And at this point, the loop will automatically stop execution because all the elements in the array have been processed. Okay, so this was how we access the array elements using a enhanced for loop, and we just access those array elements. We did not change any. Let us now see if we can modify the array primitive elements using the enhanced for loop. So this is our array marks of data type int, which is a primitive data type. It has three elements with index 0, 1, and 2. And the way we write the loop is the same for int m in marks. And now what we're trying to do is we want to add 7 to each of these values. So we say m is equal to m plus 7. Now what happens in this case? First, as we know, we start with the execution of the loop, and m will be, what will get copied to m? The first value in the array, which is 20, will get copied to the variable m. Then we come to the second statement and we say m plus is equal to 7. So now what happens at this point? Which value will get changed? Will the array value get changed or the local variable m? As we clearly said, we are just changing the value in the local variable. So the variable m will change to 27 without affecting the array. So do note, when we use the enhanced for loop for primitive data types, okay, we cannot modify the array elements. If we need to modify the array elements, we need to use the for loop, which makes use of the index, and then change those values. So here only m changes to 27, whereas the array element remains as 20. So moving on, m will be 25, and when we do m plus equal to 7, this local variable m will change to 32, and so on for 23. Local variable will change to 30. At this point, the loop ends, and at the end of the loop, the array elements are still, they have the same value as the original array, and nothing has been changed. So do note, primitive array elements cannot be modified using the enhanced for loop. Okay, so this we saw primitive data types accessing those array elements and trying to modify those array elements. Let us now move how we can access array object elements using the enhanced for loop. That means the data type is a reference data type. Okay, so just let us imagine that we have a class called employee, which has two instance variables, name and empid, and it has the various getters, setters, constructors, etc. I have not shown them here for the sake of simplicity. So I am now making an array. The square brackets denotes that I'm making an array called employees of data type employee. That means the array will hold objects of type employee. So we are saying employees is equal to, in the curly braces when I want to initialize the array, and each element of the array is a new employee object. Okay, so we are making a new employee constructors to this, name as Alia, emp ID is 1, second object Kia with employee ID 2, and the third object Sid with an employee ID of 3. Okay, when we execute the statement, what happens? Equal to is a right to left operator. So we will be creating these three objects. Fine. So we've created the first object, second object, and third object in memory. And the address of these will be, because these are reference data types. Remember, we discussed already objects are reference data types. So the address of this first object is copied to index 0 of the employees array. Similarly, Kia's address is copied to index 1 and Sid's address is copied to index 2. Okay, so this is known as an array of objects. Okay, whenever we have an array of objects, the array itself does not hold the value. It only holds the address or the reference to those objects in memory. Okay, I hope that is clear. Moving on. So now if we use the enhanced for loop, the way we do it for each employee in the employees array. Employees has what data type? Employee. So when we do the enhanced for loop over here also, we need to mention the same data type employee E in the employees array. And first we will just try to access and print those values. So I'm saying system.out.println e.name. Okay, it is very important that we understand these basic executions. So they're important when we have to write solve MCQs as well as when we have to write the program. So here, what will happen? First, we go to the for loop. As we said, the enhanced for loop automatically loops over each and every element in the array and in the order that the array elements are there. So first we have employee E, okay, the object E, and objects always hold a reference. So in this case, what will come to E? The value which is present at index 0. What value is present at index 0? Address 1. So what gets copied to E? Only an address gets copied. Okay, so E is now a pointer to this same object, Alia's object in memory. So when we print system.out.println e.name, we would get Alia as the output. Moving on, the loop continues. So again, we say employee E. So now this time, the loop will automatically move to the second element in the array, which is at index 1. Copy that over to the variable E. So E will now have address 2. Fine. And then when we print e.name, it will print Kia. And finally, for the third element, E will have address 3. And printing e.name will give Sid as the output. Okay, so the enhanced for loop works perfectly fine for accessing elements of the array which are reference data type. In this example, they are objects and not primitive data type like int, double, or boolean. Okay, so I hope this is clear. The syntax is clear. It's for, and each variable, the syntax for each variable in that particular array. Okay. Moving on, we will now try and see whether we can modify array object elements using the enhanced for loop. Okay, we saw that we cannot modify primitive array elements using the enhanced for loop. Let us see what is the case with object elements. So we have the same class employee with 2 instance variables, and we are initializing an array called employees, which has 3 objects of the type employee. These are our 3 objects. The array employees has 3 slots now, index 0, 1, and 2, and each one of them will respectively hold the address of the first object, second object, and the third object in memory. Okay. Now, using the enhanced for loop, we are doing for employee in the array employees. What we want to do is we want to change all the employee IDs. We want to increase all the employee IDs by 100. Okay. So, we start the loop. E is a local variable which will first point to the first element in the array, which is address 1. So address 1 gets copied over to variable E. Now, when we do e.emp id plus equal to 100, E, where is E's emp id? It goes to address 1, comes over here to the same box, emp id, it was 1, and now that changes to a 101. Okay, so the original array object has got modified using the enhanced for loop. Okay, continuing the loop, E will now hold address, 2 will get copied, and when we execute the statement e.empid plus equal to 100, okay, address 2's emp id currently is 2, address 2 is here, emp id is 2. When the statement gets executed, this emp id will change to a 102. And similarly for the last element in the array, E will now hold address 3, okay, and when we do e.empid plus equal to 100, it will give us 103. Okay, so I hope that is clear that an enhanced for loop will modify the array elements only if they are of a reference data type. But if they are of primitive data type, then those array elements will not get modified. So that's it for now, and happy learning.